I have never set foot in a casino, and I don't intend to change that for a couple reasons. For one, I can guarantee that I am exactly the kind of person that would get stuck in that dopamine gambling addiction loop. But gambling is really just an easy way to lose all of your time, money, and sanity if you get in too deep. No matter how good or lucky you are going to lose eventually. The thing is, as much as my brain would get addicted to the gambling loop, I also don't do well with losing, especially when there's RNG involved. If you've been present around the channel, especially with the Elden Ring streams or the recent Deltarune streams, you'll know that I can lose my mind at bosses that are purely just a skill issue. You should see me losing like Balatro when it's just because I didn't draw the card that I needed to in that specific moment.
All I needed was to draw you into my hand to complete this straight, and yet you didn't, which means I lost yet again.
At least that's how it plays out in my mind. The point is, casino's bad for many reasons. And yet I know I would not be able to stop. See, that's the trick, is that gambling is unfortunately really fun. Besides the potential monetary gain, but more likely monetary loss, games like roulette and slots are designed to squeeze every drop of dopamine out of our stupid little brains with an overstimulating level of beautiful sights and sounds. That's why simulated gambling inside of like video games is actually pretty great. A lot of open world adventure and role-playing games have this sort of thing, like the casinos in the New Vegas Strip or various locations to play these games of chance in Red Dead Redemption 2, or just entire games like this one. Slots and Daggers. This game just released last week after posting a phenomenal demo in the most recent Steam Next Fest. Boiled down, it is a roguelite gamble 'em up in which you use a slot machine to fight a changing roster of these funny little guys. Slots and Daggers is just amazing. It has all of the upsides and fun of playing a slot machine with none of the downsides. It's a pretty short game. It only took me about 3 hours to 100% from a fresh save, but it is 3 hours of pure, unadulterated fun for the low price of $8, which is a way better investment than dropping $8 into a real slot machine. I mean, to be honest, setting $8 on fire would be a better investment for the fun factor than putting it into a real slot. But seriously, this game is the most addictive thing I have played in a while. When I downloaded the demo, I was planning on playing a bunch of Steam Next Fest demos at the time. I was gonna play it for like maybe an hour and then move on to something else. I did not close the demo until I had completed every single thing that I could do. It took me about 2 hours. That was when I knew I would have to make a full video on just this game when it came out. The gameplay is incredibly simple. You pick 3 starter symbols that will act as damage output, shield builders, and economy. These symbols will be placed into your slot machine. The primary game loop has you battling a funny little specimen by clicking the stop button for each slot wheel. The symbol the wheel lands on will then perform its assigned function. Just like with real slots, if you get 3 of the same symbol in a row, you'll hit a jackpot and perform a crit. This can multiply the symbol's output by at least 2 times depending on the symbol's specific mechanics. The enemy monster will then take a turn. Most of the time they just attack, but a few have some interesting little quirks. Both the player and the enemies have 2 hit point bars, standard health and shield. If there is any shield present, all physical damage will be directed toward it and it will need to be depleted until health damage can occur. Magic damage, on the other hand, fully bypasses the shield, but is typically slightly weaker numbers wise. Reduce the monster's hit points to 0 and it dies. Obviously. After a monster has been defeated, you earn extra coins, some chips, which we'll get to in a minute, and then are brought to the shop. The shop allows you to spend your coins on upgrades to existing symbols, new symbols, and incredibly useful power-ups. Most of the symbols fall into the same categories I've mentioned: damage, shield, or economy, with a few I'm not really going to discuss because in a game like this, mechanics are spoilers and discovery is half the fun. What I will discuss is the second half of the primary loop, which is symbol choice and skill checks. Standard symbols are pretty simple. For example, the rusty sword does a set amount of physical damage when rolled. Same with the coin and a set amount of money, and the shield with a set amount of shield. Then there's symbols that have skill checks. These can do up to a maximum of whatever they do depending on a little timing minigame. They can also do a bonus crit if your timing is perfect, which increases the output. I'm not sure if there is a specific figure for that though. The tooltips are somewhat unhelpful, which I'll talk about later, but it is some form of multiplier. I think it might just be a consistent ×2. These also have synergies with some power-ups like the heart, which will re-roll the wheel upon a crit. With some skill and a little bit of luck, you can pull ridiculous damage numbers out of a single turn. turn. Some symbols also have secondary effects, like a chance to stun an enemy, lifesteal, or multiple damage types. For example, the poison dagger does a small amount of physical damage, but gives the enemy a poison charge that does magic damage at the end of the player's turn. The amount of damage depends on the number of poison charges as well as any magic damage modifiers. Most of the gameplay depth itself comes from strategizing and managing your economy. Generally, it's a good idea to have a mix of damage, shield, and econ to make sure you can take hits, win fights, and upgrade your items between rounds. But if you have too many symbols at once, it can be harder to draw a specific symbol you need at a given time. With each turn, a monster's attacks will get stronger, so taking too long in a fight will get really bad really fast, especially in the later areas. It's best to keep a maximum of 5 or 6 symbols, and I recommend keeping it at 3 well-chosen and highly upgraded ones, but that's just how I like to play. There are quite a few great builds that can be set up that don't require you to limit your options in such a way. Another big part of the strategy is how the power-ups come into play. These come in 2 forms, activated and passive. Passive power-ups are bonuses like lifesteal and extra health. Activated power-ups are things like a health potion or very powerful attacks that cost coins to use. These will sit underneath your slots and can be used at the end of your turn. I really like spamming vampirism and cheese because with high damage output, you just become unkillable. It's great. But as is the case with roguelites, for your first many runs, you will in fact lose at some point. This is where the chips come into play. These are spent on powerful permanent upgrades that range from player damage negation, increases of starting health, or extra slot wheels. Oh yeah, you heard me right. Sure, you start with 3 wheels, but with a nice 250 chips, you can have 4 or even 5 with another 250. This shit is where it gets insanely broken. An extra wheel is the most significant upgrade the game offers. It's extra damage, econ, shield, other buffs, anything. Limitless potential. And even more, limitless fun. But it wouldn't be nearly as good as it is without the absolutely stellar atmosphere. Every button press, attack, defend, symbol effect has a weight and punchiness to it. The screen shakes, the lights flash, the sounds carve a symphony of ecstasy into the brain. There's these little dice in the bottom corner of the screen that bump around on every attack. If they happen to roll the same number, you get free money. It's everything that I assume playing a real slot machine is without the financial ruin. And beyond that, the sound design goes further than just the machine itself. Cheers and boos and clapping and laughing all based around your actions and performance, the oohs and ahs, it puts you there. It feels like being in a fucking pub surrounded by patrons all enamored in your little fight. It's goddamn superb. And the music, it's amazing. It fills out that last little bit of negative space, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It's just perfect. I straight up need this OST as a download yesterday. All of the background music in this video, besides the Balatro theme at the beginning, is music from this game. The gameplay is great, but the vibes are just so impeccable that it keeps me coming back even though I've 100% of the game. It does help though that there is an endless mode. Once you beat the primary mode, which is actually kind of easy if you build well, you'll unlock an arcade mode that has you cycle through about 10 or so enemies with increasing stats every time, where you're just trying to rack up a nice high score. You'll have all of your upgrade modules and unlock symbols to play with, as well as a boosted economy. Great way to test out builds or just dick around with the mechanics. Also, it's a good way to gain so many chips you literally will not know what to do with them. So in a world where games are more expensive and more bloated than ever, sometimes you need a cheap 3-hour experience to kill an afternoon. It's not revolutionary, it doesn't have an incredibly deep lore or a story that'll blow you away. It's not even particularly hard. I discovered that the bomb, a seemingly weak weapon, scales to an insane degree that you can one-shot enemies in the final area with just a little bit of prep. And from looking around the internet, that's not the only OP build. It's also not perfect. Some tooltips are vague or just totally nondescript, and the balancing is a bit odd. There are symbols that can be bought that are just straight up direct better versions of the starting symbols. I understand the idea, but why not just let the base ones upgrade more and leave that space for other unique concepts? But that's a little bit nitpicky if I'm being honest. It's a great game, truly. And no, I'm not addicted to it. I can stop anytime I want. 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 Anytime I want. I can stop. I can stop right now if I wanted to. I can stop